Welcome to Macomb County and the area of Michigan known affectionately as the Eastside. Join us as we cruise Gratiot Avenue and visit the cities that were a part of the arsenal of democracy, helping the United States win World War II. Next on the Michigan Edge. You are watching The Michigan Edge, a series that will surprise you with stories and views of individual towns and communities that make Michigan such a unique place. We will uncover the special combination of history, places, events, culture, and people that have shaped these towns and given them an edge over other places. The Michigan Edge. Today, we travel to Macomb County to visit the Eastside cities of Eastpointe, Roseville, Mount Clemens, and Warren. After the American Revolution, Michigan still had very few communities outside of Fort Detroit. Most of the country thought that the interior of Michigan outside of Detroit was inhabitable. If you lived outside of Detroit, you were either a trapper or farmer. There was nothing in between. Shortly after the territory of Michigan was established in 1805, road districts were set up by the governor. Roads built within these territorial road districts were local farm-to-market routes designated solely to enable the predominantly farming population to reach their neighboring market centers.
As the land started to be settled, they needed ways to travel and transport. So they used to build plank roads. When the township was beginning to form a government, and this was when the Grosbeck family was very involved. And they had come out here and had started farms, as many people did. They had held a meeting at their house to form the township government, and they needed a name for this place. So they decided on Warren. Now, there's a little controversy over who it was named for, but it comes down to it's the Civil War General Warren that the township is named after. Well, Warren does have the distinction of having one of the early governors grew up in Warren, and that was Governor Grosbeck, which is what the highway was named after, because he was somebody that was really strong on building good roads. Somebody we need again today. But he was one of the people that helped bring about part of the good roads that Michigan developed early on in our history.
In 1893, the village of Warren was established. Warren was still primarily an agricultural community for the next several decades with a strong faith community. Many successful churches were centered in this growing area, but it wasn't until 1919 when a mass movement of people came to Detroit from the deprived southern and middle western states looking for work. Housing in Detroit was very scarce, and the influx of workers could not be accommodated. This offered an opportunity for land developers in Warren to establish subdivisions and plan for a residential community, while automotive manufacturers were looking to build bigger plants outside of Metro Detroit. Development continued until the Great Depression of the 1930s ground all expansion to a halt. It wasn't until 1940 that things would change for Warren, when President Franklin Roosevelt declared the U.S. would become an arsenal of democracy to help the United Kingdom fight Nazi Germany by giving them military supplies. These supplies included the building of tanks, and in short order. And the Warren tank plant would become the center of it all. Stay tuned as we will find out how Michigan became one of the primary suppliers to the World War II war effort when the Michigan Edge continued. The Michigan Military Technical and Historical Society operates a museum in Eastpointe dedicated to the Michigan citizens who served and sacrificed here and abroad in World War I and World War II. Curator Chris Causley and his staff explained the importance of the East Side in the arsenal of democracy.
A lot of people associate the Detroit metropolitan area with the arsenal of democracy, and it's definitely been linked primarily to World War II. If you go back and really study it, it came to be in World War I. Sometimes I like to call World War I the dress rehearsal for the arsenal of democracy, because there was a lot of things that were done that we learned a lot. We made a lot of mistakes in World War I, and a lot of the players that you see come back in World War II were part of that, and they remembered what they did wrong, and they figured out ways to make it better. There was a lot of knowledge here in this area on how to make things, not necessarily how to make military things, but they knew how to make things. The government said, okay, this is what we need, go make it.
And make it they did. The Detroit Arsenal Tank Plant was the first manufacturing plant ever built for the mass production of tanks in the United States. Established in 1940 and operating under Chrysler, this plant was owned by the U.S. government until 1996.
The Second World War came along, and of course we got into it big time. This was quite an event, especially after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Well, in the meantime, the Army needed machinery, and they really needed tanks. And the Arsenal of Democracy here in Warren was built to take care of that. They had the big manufacturing plant. They would have tanks rolling off the assembly line there. In fact, they would sometimes have tanks rolling down Van Dyke Avenue. I never saw them, but there are people that lived here that did. But it employed lots and lots of people. We have a photo of President Roosevelt in his car visiting the arsenal. It's one of their photos, of course, that they've shared with us. It's just a very interesting and a very important part of the whole history of the war effort. And here was Warren right in the middle of it.
Even today, Michigan still has over 4,000 different businesses and almost 50,000 jobs in the defense industry, and Macomb County is the center of that.
Between 1960 and 1970, Warren's population doubled with new neighborhoods, businesses, and shopping centers.
Around the 70s, the population did kind of stabilize. The growth stopped and has diminished somewhat, but it still was the third largest city in the state. Next census, we'll see if it still is. But there was Detroit, then Grand Rapids, then Warren.
Warren continues to be a commercial center for business, with many national companies continuing to use the local workforce. The city of Warren could be called the biggest little city in Michigan. Its massive community center offers citizens of all ages a variety of activities year-round. The City Hall municipal buildings provide state-of-the-art access for all municipal services in one central location. The civic pride is evident as you can see families enjoying the city fountain on a hot summer day. Warren is a special place where you can live the American dream of having a good job and living in a city that cares about its citizens. When we come back, we'll go farther east to travel M3, better known as Gratiot Avenue, to the cities of Eastpointe and Roseville. Next on the Michigan Edge. When Charles Woodward designed the streets of Detroit after the fire of 1814, he created 6 main spokes out of the center of the city: Woodward Avenue, Michigan Avenue, Grand River Avenue, Gratiot Avenue, Jefferson Avenue, and Fort Street. Gratiot Avenue was the route that led to Fort Gratiot, which became Port Huron. The basic trail traffic grew when this avenue was turned into a plank road with a toll of 1 cent for each horse. Mount Clemens was becoming a destination on the way to Fort Gratiot, and about halfway there was a little village named Halfway, where the stagecoaches stopped. The amazing growth of this stop quickly qualified Halfway for city status. In 1929, the name was changed to yet another descriptive title: East Detroit.
They were outside of Wayne County, they were in Macomb County, and they were not Detroit. They were East Detroit. That was the city name that they took on at some point in time, probably because everybody referred to the area as part of the eastern part of Detroit, or East Detroit.
Gratiot Avenue was the gateway to what would be known as the Eastside. East Detroit grew as the population continued to travel down Michigan Highway 3. With great automotive-related jobs and plenty of affordable single-family housing, East Detroit was a great place to own a business and raise a family. Yet another name change was in store.
And then it was East Detroit, and then it was Eastpointe, which a lot of people have the misunderstanding that there was this huge groundswell of people who wanted it changed, and really it was just a small group of dedicated people who kept putting it on the ballot until there was kind of an off year, I think a May election, and it passed. And so I do know that it was quite costly to the city to have to change everything.
You have a more of a blue-collar, hard-working population in both cities. People are real, people are nice, people are upfront with you, they're honest. I just think that would probably be one of the main reasons and draws to bring you here, if that's what you're looking for.
Just north down Gratiot Avenue on the other side of 10 Mile is the city of Roseville. It's hard to tell when Eastpointe ends and Roseville begins, as the cities are so similar and share the thriving Gratiot business district.
I see it still as a thriving city, businesses continually wanting to come here. There's a lot of commerce, there's a lot of business in the area, a lot of very big businesses in the area, but still there's a lot of small businesses in the area. And there's a lot of traffic, which is good for business. And whenever there's a lot of traffic and a lot of business, there's a lot of people. So, people still want to live in Roseville, they still love the area. And I see that it continually growing and continually thriving in 10 years.
Well, I think you're going to have great exposure. We definitely have a very dense population in both cities. We have a lot of main thoroughways, a lot of main roads that connect the cities. I just think you'll get great exposure, and I think you have great clientele. People are really receptive to the businesses in the area.
I grew up in South Warren, and then my mother moved a little north to Sterling Heights, and then she bought a campground way up north. And so it was after college. Detroit was a little too expensive between the redlining of the car insurance and the property taxes. So I was looking for something affordable, but still had that, brick home, really well made homes. And Eastpointe was just perfect.
When you think of Eastpointe, you think of restaurants, you probably think of Cloverleaf, #1. It's, the original Detroit recipe pizza. The owners moved, I believe, from Buddy's sold that business and moved to Eastpointe and started their restaurant here. And it's been here for a very, very, very long time. There's a great history there. I know a little bit about Villa, that it's been there a long time as well. People from Eastpointe and Roseville and the surrounding area will tell you it's probably one of the best Italian food around.
These two cities coexist as the Eastside and celebrate the road that made it all happen, Gratiot Avenue. The Cruise in Gratiot week-long event celebrates automotive history along the famous M3 Gratiot Avenue.
The big thing I know about the Gratiot Cruise is that it has its own dedicated cruising lane, which I'm not a car person myself, but amongst cruisers that seems to be a big deal. It's pretty much a feature event of the city. People come from all over to cruising up and down Gratiot. It has a lot of nostalgia, a lot of memories for a lot of people.
Well, as a car lover and a car owner myself of old vehicles, the Gratiot Cruise is a gem of the East Side. It's not super congested. It's still a very small community. Lots of fun, lots of cars, lots of people, and everybody just has a good time. And I think the cruise is really a gem of Eastside. And now with this is the first year that Eastpointe and Roseville actually joined forces in having one larger cruise, and it was fantastic. A lot of fun, a lot of nice cars.
It is clear that the Eastside is much more than just the business on Van Dyke, Mound, or Gratiot Avenue. It is a unique community full of cars, civic pride, and a special place in American history. The Eastside is a great place to visit, work, or raise a family, and it definitely has the Michigan edge. Mount Clemens was first surveyed and settled in 1795 by Christian Clemens. He was attracted to the region because of its access to Lake St. Clair from the Clinton River. Clemens wanted to settle a community on this great natural waterway, so he started by building and operating a distillery so people would stop. The small village on the river continued to grow, and on January 15 of 1818, Michigan Territory Governor Lewis Cass signed a proclamation establishing the county of Macomb, named after General Alexander Macomb, hero of the War of 1812. Then, just 3 months later, Governor Cass named Mount Clemens the county seat and appointed Christian Clemens judge of the county court. During the 1870s, attempts to develop salt wells proved unsuccessful, but it resulted in the discovery of the famed mineral waters. This created a mineral bath industry that made Mount Clemens famous throughout the world as a health spa destination. During the heyday of the mineral bath era, 23 major hotels and bathhouses prospered.
I mean, all the different movie stars and athletes. Babe Ruth used to come down here for those mineral baths. So it's kind of interesting when you think about its history.
They attracted noted visitors such as film actors Clark Gable and Mae West, athletes Babe Ruth and Jack Dempsey, news magnate William Randolph Hearst, and the Vanderbilt family all vacationed to the city to enjoy the mineral baths. In fact, the entire community became known as Bath City, with the local high school team nicknamed the Battling Bathers. In the mid-1940s, this thriving industry began to decline, and fewer people came to stay the 3 weeks required to obtain the curative powers of the mineral baths. The 1950s and 1960s was a time of transformation for the city, as county government took a more prominent role. Today, the riverfront and downtown developments, such as the boardwalk, marina, and landscaping, enhance the city's unique allure. Some of Mount Clemens' most notable citizens include actor Dean Cain, singer Uncle Kracker, Hall of Fame sports broadcaster Dick Enberg, and the Archbishop of Detroit, Alan Henry Vigneron. As the county seat and one of the oldest cities in Michigan, Mount Clemens continues to be a safe residential city with citizens that are proud of its famous past and are enthusiastic about its bright future. While Mount Clemens was once a spa destination, it is now an emerging center for ingenuity, technology, and software development. Macomb County Executive Mark Hackle coined the term hotbed for creativity to describe the emerging face of Mount Clemens.
You're starting to see some of the IT, the tech-savvy people moving downtown to the Mount Clemens area and occupying some of the buildings that were vacant. So I think what you see is that synergy. One starts to come in, others start to kind of come in around it. So they're starting to see it happening just by themselves. Really, there wasn't a recruitment effort of trying to get out there and impress upon people. But I think what you had is affordable opportunities for people to move their businesses down here.
We wanted a space and we wanted a company where people want to come to work. Want to join, be part of the company, and have the right culture where there's not a lot of politics, there's not a lot of stress. We do good work and we do work well, but in our a relaxed environment. So in an old firehouse like this, it's kind of the a very untraditional world that we're working in. We're not all in cubes, we're on one big open space, and that gives a more family type environment that we're working within. Again, iBuyer's very interested in technology and where technology is going, and so as anything comes out, be it the iPhone, the iPad, any wearable devices now, we're really fascinated in saying where is that going to go and what can we do with that. So the iPhone, obviously the first real smartphone, being able to have that opportunity to start developing applications. We did it in a jailbreak phase in the beginning, and ended up then being one of the first few thousand apps that were actually in the App Store. A big part of our business now is all about mobile applications. Nothing that we do for clients today is purely on a web or desktop. It always has a mobile component. Yeah, we're really a full shop software development firm, so we do a lot of systems that are not just on the mobile. It's the back end part, it's web enabled parts, and a lot of consulting from user experience to art to 2D, 3D artists that we have on staff.
The Macomb County government has also embraced high technology. The county's newly opened $11 million Comtech Communications and Technology Center unites 911 dispatch services for police, fire, emergency management, and houses IT and the development of roads, and is a model of intergovernmental cooperation, sharing services and capabilities with municipal governments. Besides an impressive tech-savvy dispatch center, Mount Clemens is the proud host to many downtown events. Specifically, it has taken an initiative to raise a healthier generation and combat childhood obesity with the annual Let's Move Festival. This high-energy event is just one of the many attractions that draws thousands of people into the city. Other cultural events include the annual Mount Clemens Art Fair, which showcases artisans and craftsmen from across the Midwest in a downtown atmosphere. while the Made in Michigan Fair celebrates homegrown or manufactured products, taking over 3 blocks in the process. Mount Clemens is also one of the only cities that you can drive a boat to work or play in from the Clinton River. The river has always been the natural gateway to downtown and still brings in people who want to enjoy the boating lifestyle in a city setting.
Welcome to Captain's Landing. These are our 2 boats. This is the Captain Paul II. This is a private charter boat. It runs by the hour. And it's a lot of fun to go on. It comes with just a captain and a crew, and you can add a bar, you can add food, you can have entertainment, or whatever you like. And hopefully this fall we'll be able to do a fishing charter out of Metro Beach. That's what we're hoping for.
Captain's Landing, it's right on the water. It's a great place to meet people, and you just enjoy yourself just sitting here in the evening, and sun shining, and it's beautiful in the summer.
Everybody loves a downtown feel, and Mount Clemens has an array of streets filled with businesses, food, shopping, and entertainment.
I would say that the downtown area is really, really cool because it's a nice close community. With all the different events that they do in downtown Mount Clemens, it's just great exposure for all of the businesses.
On the corner of Main and Market Street, you'll find a one-of-a-kind Irish pub, Three Blind Mice, that opened its doors in 2013, but don't let the restored look fool you. The building itself is over 100 years old.
Three Blind Mice Irish Pub, home to 290 different beers, 150 different bourbons, scotches, and whiskeys. Just a nice historic building, 114 years old this year, and just fun. Live music 7 nights a week. It's kind of hard to find that. It was rumored that Al Capone came here and hung out, like part of the Purple Gang used to come and hang out here when it was a green tree. I think mostly during Prohibition.
The summertime is the busiest time in Mount Clemens, as it's home to fairs, cruises, fireworks, and so much more. It's home to more than 30 bars, bistros, restaurants, shops, and sidewalk cafes. There are dining and entertainment options for everyone all year round in Mount Clemens.